This is the script with only the grammatical errors corrected, maintaining the same length and meaning. You brought up Nvidia, one of OpenAI's investors. This morning, we're also monitoring those shares. Following the closing bell yesterday, Nvidia's stock increased. In an interview with John Ford, Jensen Huang, the CEO, then mentioned the company's Blackwell AI processors. Blackwell's production is complete. The demand for Blackwell is crazy, and Blackwell is as planned. Everyone aspires to be the first and to have the most. The Blackwell chips from Nvidia have 2.5 times the processing capability than its predecessors. Everyone wants to get their hands on this, he said. In this instance as well, Jensen Huang could likely establish many of the rules. According to OpenAI, you cannot invest in other people. Because there is such a high demand for these chips, Jensen Huang must decide who should receive them and find a method to place people in line. Okay, $6.6 billion. That basically gets funneled to Nvidia. The market remarked right away. Thus, Nvidia's shares see a slight increase, although it's still in this careless trading range. That's the way things have been, isn't it? The major VCs have been the ones investing in OpenAI. They must invest it as quickly as they can. Most of it goes to Nvidia. The bottom line of Nvidia receives half of the revenue. Nvidia's earnings are currently valued at 32 times forward by the market, which somewhat revitalizes the public tech markets. How much more needs to happen after this, I suppose, is the question. The industry needs to grow to scale off, and you see these crazy forecasts of $50 and $100 billion more in a hurry. We should perhaps remark that Nvidia is up 2.3%. This place has been bopping around a bit. It hasn't really been able to get above and remain above the old highs, which are in the mid-120s. It has a fairly crucial point, according to Chris Phone, who is at Strategas this morning. It must terminate this brief run of downward trends. June was its climax. For now, though, you can tell that this is another attempt. According to him, breaking the downtrend truly requires hitting 128. Tape has been observing some of Jensen Huang's recurring stock sales in Nvidia. In reality, executives in the semiconductor industry, I'll check my figures again, sold 1.35 billion shares in Q3 for the industry as a whole. The largest quarterly sale ever recorded was that one. In this case, I do believe Jensen W played a significant role. However, there is no question about that. Their first half of the year was enormous. Those stocks simply soared. The amazing thing about Nvidia is that, as everyone says, the company's stated valuation is getting better because its earnings are holding up. Nothing is being done by the stock. 92% of people purchase street ratings. The price target set by consensus is around 15. According to the consensus price forecast, this company should already be valued at $367 billion, and it is already well liked by all. Thus, I believe that's the reason it's somewhat stalled here. Naturally, Jensen discussed the new wave of AI, as he described it, in addition to the desire for Blackwell over time when he was on Closing B yesterday. Listen to this. We're at the start of the next largest wave of artificial intelligence, and it's really about businesses all over the world using AI to be more productive as their digital workers, AI agents, and co-pilots, as people call them, as well as using AI, generative AI, to completely change how they build their products. In addition to describing what analysts do, you also indicated that the percentage of purchase recommendations is within the top 10. They examine the momentum of earnings. They consider the final requirement. I mean, it's intriguing even if, apparently, this is the largest AI wave to date. It's essentially reiterating the same narrative that we are all familiar with. I believe the Blackwell delay question lasted for roughly 5 minutes, due to the fact that he indicated yesterday at the Goldman Sachs Communicopia and Tech Conference, which I attended a few weeks ago, that demand is crazy, and the street is still focused on this point. In a keynote address alongside David Solomon, he once more detailed the astounding, debilitating volume of demand they still encounter. We ignore any possible delays because we are aware of their imminence and the existence of demand. As I listened to that portion of his discussion, I also found myself thinking about how they have such a great installed base that they view their clients as an installed base, which is not just a first-mover advantage, but literally a moat. He was discussing it in a very Apple-like manner, whether it's in gaming, Not even in AI, but gaming. And then you add AI overlay on top of that. He wasn't referring to Apple, but it got me to thinking about it. How long can you maintain a 90% margin, even though the saying? Are there any incentives for the buyers to try diversifying? And the entire, but I believe, even more simply said, what we're discussing here was somewhat grasped by the stock at 125 in June. I believe that's why you need to wait until it's clear that the market is willing to place a wager that the numbers from the following year will hold up. Today, Nvidia's stock rose once again. Yesterday, CEO Jensen Huang discussed the demand for his company's semiconductors exclusively on overtime. Pay attention. Blackwell's production is complete. The demand for Blackwell is crazy, and Blackwell is as planned. Everyone aspires to be the first and to have the most. Josh, pay attention to that word. Outrageous demand. What Jensen Huang still observes is the reason why investors persist in limiting the duration of pullbacks. I'm old enough to recall the days when CEOs of semiconductor companies would sandbag and claim that demand was fine before coming out and slamming it. You saw an A+3% increase in the stock today, which suggests that Jensen W. doesn't think he needs to do that. I believe you need to stay long if your CEO is already calling this new platform insane in public and is supposedly going to release a very major update the next time they report their quarter on demand. Unless he's crazy, he sees the order book and sits in the leather jacket, sipping a yoo-hoo as if he were good. That's the only reason anyone would do that, and it's impossible to measure when you get that vibe from a CEO. All I can say is that it makes sense for this name to be green today rather than red. He keeps saying, does Jensen Huang, why investors don't let the stock fall all that far. The stock has clearly had times when it has dropped back to $100, but now it is back above $120. Does that make sense, Bren? Let's just expand a bit, shall we? To date, the stock has increased between 120% and 140%. Therefore, it's still much above 100%, whether it's at 140 or 120. I believe Jensen is the best salesman in the world. Remember that he is the company's founder. He provides the goods, but he's the best salesman in the world. Josh is just right, in my opinion. What's notable, in my opinion, is that the stock has been consolidating around this 110 to 130 level for a long time after the split. Additionally, I believe that the investment from these hyperscalers and venture capitalists is still in its early stages when I just listen to the other earnings calls and consider OpenAI's recent enormous $157 billion valuation. None of these businesses are giving us any indications that this is slowing down. Consequently, I believe that this is a good time to purchase Nvidia, and the stock has had a great fourth quarter. Remember that they report quite late. Thus, it will be 2 months before we receive that. However, this is the time when you can see it in the 120s, and I believe it's a fantastic time to buy a stock. You own it in the QDVO, your new ETF view, Kev. In my opinion, if you take a really basic approach and ask, can Nvidia earn $5 a share next year? And forget about a 37 multiple if they do, because a 30 multiple raises the stock to $150 per share. Like all trades, this one will eventually burn out, but I don't think it will happen anytime soon.